Welcome, everyone. This afternoon, we have the privilege of holding a memorial service for Don M. Larrabee, a longtime member of our Law Association. We recognize and appreciate the attendance of Attorney Larrabee's family members who are here to join us for the memorial service. I believe I see his wife, Anne. I believe there's also children and other friends and family members here. So we thank you and welcome you all. On February, I believe it was 19th, I appointed a committee to draft the report and resolution recognizing the life and accomplishments of Don M. Larrabee. The chairman of the committee is Judge Kenneth Brown, and members of the committee are Judge William Keyser, Ed Mitchell, Doug Engel, Tom Marshall, and Scott A. Williams. I now recognize Judge Brown as the chairman of the committee to present the committee, the report, and resolution, please.
Thank you, Judge Butts. You can hear me okay? Good.
Yes.
Okay. To the Honorable Judges of the above named court, the Honorable Judge Nancy L. Butts, President Judge of Court of Common Pleas of Lycoming County, 29th Judicial District, by order dated February 19, 2021, appointed the undersigned committee to draft resolutions memorializing the life of Don M. Larrabee II, Esquire, and to submit the same to this honorable court at a session of court scheduled for this day and time. The report will now be submitted via teleconference. Don Marshall Larrabee II was a member of the bar of this court for 46 years. Don was born in Williamsport on November 26, 1941, and died on August 10, 2020 at the age of 78. Don was the son of the late John Amsden and Ray Crooks Larrabee. Don was a beloved husband of Anne Henry Larrabee, with whom he shared over 23 years of loving marriage. Survivors, in addition to his wife, Anne, Don will be lovingly remembered by his daughter, Deborah Lynn Height, and husband Jason of Woodstone, New Jersey, stepsons Brian R. Caraselli of Chatham, New Jersey, and Todd M. Caraselli and his wife Nicole of Seattle, Washington. Grandchildren Madeline Ray and Lillian Grace Height, Olivia Catherine, Owen Michael, Isabel Ann, and Lucia Rose Caraselli. Don was a graduate of Williamsport High School, class of 1959, Franklin and Marshall College, class of 1963, and Fordham University School of Law, class of 1966. Besides his longtime practice of law, Don taught business law as a lecturer in law at Lycoming College for 37 years. Don M. succeeded his uncle, Don L., in this position. Don was a lifetime member of the Grays Run Club in Trout Run, PA. Don's family has made important contributions to the Lycoming County Bench and Bar. His grandfather, Don Marshall Larrabee, was elected as a Lycoming County judge in 1931, and in 1938 he became the president judge of Lycoming County, and he was noted for his fairness. Judge Larrabee's son, Don Lincoln Larrabee, was an attorney and practiced law in Lycoming County. In 1952, upon Judge Larrabee's retirement, he resumed private practice of law with his son, Don Lincoln Larrabee. Don Lincoln Larrabee, like our Don, taught at Lycoming College for 27 years. After his graduation from law school and admission to the bar in 1966, Don shared office space and practiced law with his uncle, Don Lincoln Larrabee, in the Bodichsbacher building. Don Lincoln Larrabee died in 1972. Upon his admission to the bar in November 1968, Judge William Keyser opened his own law office in association with Don L. and Don M., in which he continued through 1971. Don continued his practice at this location until 1975. Don also served as a part-time law clerk for President Judge Charles Greevey and Judge Thomas Wood. In 1971, Don ran for the office of District Attorney of Lycoming County on the Republican ticket, but he lost in a close election to Alan Ertl. From 1975 till 1981, Don practiced at 143 West 4th Street and became good friends with attorney Richard Roesgen, who also worked in the building. In 1981, Don entered into a partnership with his friend, attorney Richard Roesgen, and formed the law firm of Roesgen, Larrabee, and Brown. Judge Brown had previously been an associate with Dick Roesgen in the law firm of Hager and Roesgen. They located this new law firm in the old City Hall building on Pine Street. In 1988, Judge Brown, with the support of Don and Dick Roesgen, applied for and was appointed to the Lycoming County bench for the vacancy left by the early retirement of Judge Robert Wallet. Judge Brown was elected for a 10-year term in November 1989. Upon the departure of Judge Brown, attorney Douglas Engelman joined the firm, which became the firm of Roesgen, Larrabee, and Engelman. Around 1994, Don opened up his own office to practice law, associating with attorney Peter Berjanowski at 4 West 4th Street in Williamsport. Don maintained his practice of law at this location till approximately 2011. With Don getting ready for retirement, he became of counsel to the law firm of McNerney, Page, Vanderlyn, and Hall at 433 Market Street. Don was of counsel until 2012 when he retired from the practice of law. Don married Barbara Green in 1973. They had one daughter, Deborah Lynn. In 1994, Don and Barbara divorced. In 1996, Don married Ann Henry Caroselli. They were married at Covenant Central Church in Williamsport. Don first met Ann, who lived in Lancaster, in 1968. It was a summer romance. Don was a young attorney, and Ann went back to college. Over the years, they would hear news of each other as their mothers were friends. Don and Ann both married someone else and raised children. Ann's husband, Michael Caroselli, died at age 47. They had 2 children, Brian and Todd. Ann, still in Lancaster, contacted Don by phone for legal advice in settling her husband's estate. Once the legal conversations concluded, they decided to meet once more. 26 years had passed since they had last seen each other. Don, on every weekend thereafter, would drive to Lancaster so they could spend time together. When Don would tell the second time around story, he always said, "I can't let her get away this time." Married in 1996, Don and Ann resided in Williamsport for the next 16 years. Don continued his law practice and taught at Durbantville Elementary and then Central Elementary in South Williamsport. Around 2011, Ann noticed that when walking together, Don would have trouble keeping up with her. Don's symptoms became concerning, and he was then diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Looking to the future, they built a home with handicap modifications in Bethlehem, PA. This new location shortened the distance to children and grandbabies. The disease progressed and Don became wheelchair bound in 2016. The following years were a challenge as the disease took so much from Don. He never complained and remained grateful for all that he could still enjoy. He especially cherished times with family, watching the grandchildren growing up, spending winter months in their Venice, Florida home, cruising with friends, enjoying a chilled martini and a good meal, winning at cards, a good mystery, their dachshund Susie. These things kept him upbeat. His quick wit still kept those around him smiling. His faith was strong, and he was still Zooming the church during the pandemic. His positive outlook was nothing short of pretty amazing. Don's last month was a stay in 3 different hospitals, and he died from multiple complications of Parkinson's on August 10, 2020 in Bethlehem. Don is buried in his hometown of Williamsport at Wildwood Cemetery. Don was always a gentleman and was always respected as a skillful and honorable practitioner of law, and was particularly loved by the partners and associates he worked with over the years. Don will live on in the hearts of family and his many friends. Your committee recommends the adoption of the following resolutions. Be it resolved that in the passing of Don M. Larrabee II, there has been a loss to the Lycoming County Bar of an able, conscientious member who upheld and exemplified the highest traditions of the legal profession, a loss to the community of a valued participant, a loss to his family of a devoted, kind, and loving father and grandfather, and a loss to his friends and acquaintances of a sincere and caring man. Be it further resolved that this court and this bar do hereby extend to Don's wife, Ann, children, and grandchildren a deep and heartfelt expression of sympathy. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread at length upon the minutes of the Court of Lycoming County, and that copies of the same be sent to Don's wife, children, and grandchildren. And it is submitted by the committee, myself, Honorable Judge William Kieser, C. Edward Mitchell, Douglas Engelman, Thomas C. Marshall, and Scott A. Williams. Thank you, Judge Butts.
You're welcome. Judge Brown, did you wish to make any personal statements regarding your knowledge of Mr. Larrabee?
Yes, I would. And first, as Judge Butts has mentioned, I do want to acknowledge members of Don's family, his wife Ann, Deborah Height, his daughter, Brian Caraselli, stepson, Olivia and Owen Caraselli, grandchildren, Madeline and Lillian Height, granddaughters, Joan Caraselli, mother-in-law, and Ray Slingerland, cousin. So it's quite a nice turnout from the family. One of the few benefits of getting older is gaining a perspective as to the people who have been most important over the years. I first met Don when working with Dick Rosen at 143 West 4th Street. Then in 1981, we formed the law firm Rosen, Larrabee & Brown. Don was great to work with. He was always even-keeled. He never seemed down or depressed. Don was always willing to help and give the benefit of his insight and experience. I'll give you an early example of Don as somebody who was willing to help. Early in our practice, I had represented Hartford Insurance Company client, and I had filed a motion to dismiss. It was going to be heard by Judge Muir. Now, Judge Muir was known to be a stickler, and if you did not file the brief on time, the motion would be dismissed. And the day the brief was due, at 4 o'clock, I got it done. Our secretary had to leave to pick up her children from school, and I was manning the copying machine trying to get this brief copied so I could submit it to the court. And being all thumbs, I was having some problems. Don quickly noticed I was having some problems and getting a little bit panicky. And he came over to the copy machine and he helped me sort out the copies. And I must say, I was getting panicky because I was going to meet with the adjuster the next day to go over the case. And this was an adjuster who didn't like attorneys and especially didn't like young attorneys. I had this bad vision of sitting there at this meeting telling him that I had lost the motion by not filing the brief on time, which would have been a very bad start to the meeting. So Don helped me. At 4:45, we got the copies, got the brief packaged up. He said, come on, come down to my car. He got his car running and he drove me over to the federal courthouse when we got the brief filed on time. So he was kind of the savior for me at that point in time. Don was also there to help me on bigger issues. In 1980, I was the district attorney of Lycoming County, but at that time, the district attorney was part-time. It was not full-time, despite the fact that the work was full-time. Thus, in 1981, when we formed the law firm, I was really a part-time partner working in the DA's office. The reality was, though, that I was barely getting over to the private office, especially in the beginning years. It was really hard getting my feet planted and was kind of neglecting the private office and the clients. I started to feel really guilty about this, and I sat down and talked with Don about it. And Don told me that this attorney's job was the most important thing, and that he would pick up the slack and help with my clients. And he made me feel a lot better. I felt very guilty about the situation, but after talking to Don, I really felt a lot better about the situation. In 1988, Judge Robert Wallach retired from the bench before the end of his term because of health reasons. Governor Robert Casey appointed a merit selection panel to recommend an attorney to fill the position. Don encouraged me to apply, and he helped me with the lengthy application process. With his help, I was fortunate enough to be selected by Governor Casey to fill this position. The reality is this would not have happened without Don's encouragement and his support. I do have to admit with some regret that when Don left Lycoming County, I really lost contact with him. However, I have been very gratified to learn of Don's happy life with Ann, surrounded by family, grandchildren, and friends. It's also gratifying to see that despite Parkinson's disease, which eventually took his life, Don was never down or depressed, that even in his hospitalizations, Ann told me that he still was not above flirting with some of the nurses. Don was a good friend, a mentor, and a great attorney. He will live on forever in my memory. Thank you, Judge Butts.
Thank you, Judge Brown. Sir, did you wish to say a few words?
I think he's muted.
I know he is, and he's talking to somebody to ask them for help. There he
Okay,
is.
okay. Too many buttons for an old guy to push. I just have such great fond memories of the time that I spent with Don, which was basically in the practice of law together, which was basically from 68 through 72. I had become acquainted with the Larrabee family while I was a student at Lycoming College, and when I had an interest in going to law school, Don L. Larrabee encouraged me greatly. I had him as a business law prof, and then Don L. became my preceptor. And so in the summer, couple summers that I worked out of the law office, while I got acquainted with Don M. I was in the office there in the summer, his first time that he was there. In any event, excuse me for that. But Don L. brought me in to the group of practice with Don M. And in doing that, it was a rescue for me. And Don M. was a great part of that rescue. And that was because in November 1968, as I found out I had passed the bar exam and was going to be admitted to the bar, my plans to go into Navy JAG fell through because of some physical issues. And all of a sudden I had no place to go to work. And Don L. and Don M. welcomed me in to start a practice with them. I rented an office in the Vital Sparkle building up the hall from them, and we had great times together. Don M. really showed me the ropes, introduced me to all different members of the bar, and just kind of led me by the hand through those first couple of years of law practice that are so important. He had a great relationship with his clients, and was everybody just appreciated Don's kindness, his smile, and of course his legal ability in the practice he had. We had some very good times together. I fondly remember that at least once a month on a Friday, that Tom Raup and Don, who were very close friends, along with perhaps Bob Sarno, a couple other people, including myself on many occasions, would go up to the Bull and Barrel Tavern for lunch on Fridays. I think that, don't know just how the paycheck system worked out in Tom Ralph's office, but it seemed whenever Tom had a good payday, why that was the day we'd head up to the Bull and Barrel. and just a lot of good social times. And Don was just such a leader there. We worked through a whole lot of changes in practice law when I started in the office. There were no dictating machines. Everything was dictated to the secretary who took things down shorthand. And Don and I never convinced his uncle to do otherwise, but we started in getting those old IBM belt dictaphones, and then the photocopying. That was something that was brand new. And I brought a photocopier from my dad into the office. It had that old onion skin copy paper, and just so many things that we worked through together for it. At the same time, I was working as an assistant district attorney with Alan Erdl. And in 1971, as mentioned, Don decided, and I think perhaps with the urging of Tom Raup, but Don decided to run for district attorney. Put me in a little bit of an unusual situation in that I'm working for Alan Erdl, the sitting district attorney, and Don, who was challenging him, and put up quite a strong challenge. I think maybe to Alan's surprise a little bit, because Don didn't really have any experience in the criminal law field, but nevertheless, it was a tough spot that I was in kind of throughout that election, and Alan prevailed. And Don was always the gracious gentleman about it in so many ways. He just never brought up. We were still able to share some things civilly that is in our civil practice. We will share some things and cover each other. And after he lost, he was again gracious and would have gladly kept the association going. But it just became a little tough to try and to carry on that way for me. And so I separated and went opened up an office sharing with Alan Erdl at that time. After that, Don and I didn't have an awful lot of association except to see each other. And occasionally we'd have clients that had real estate transactions, things of that nature together. And just the same Don, just the gracious gentleman, knowledgeable lawyer. And so I just like to express to Ann and to the rest of his family both my respect and my sympathy. He was just a really good guy.
Thank you, Judge Keeser. Mr. Mitchell.
May it please the court, members of the bar, Ann, and members of Don's family. I first met Don when I was in junior high school. He was two years ahead of me in school, and I followed him through junior high and through Williamsport High School. And we became friends and remain friends actually for the rest of his life. Interestingly, I actually knew Ann before I knew Don, because although Ann's younger than me, she was a very close friend of my sister, Patty, from the time they started grade school. So I actually knew Ann before I knew Don. When we started working on this resolution, the word that always comes forward when you talk about Don Larrabee is gentleman. And everybody says gentleman, and it's in the resolution. So I started thinking, I had to think of some word other than gentleman, because everybody knows he's a gentleman and everybody's going to say gentleman. So I started thinking about other words, and there are a lot. But these are the ones I wrote down. Even-tempered, happy, well-liked, nice guy, professional, good dresser, handsome, sincere, content, and respected. And there could be many, many more, but he was all of those things. He was a member of the class of Williamsport High School of the class of 1959, graduated from the old high school on West 3rd Street. And I have his yearbook here. He has 7 lines of activities, which include being on the Cherry and White, which was the school magazine, editorial staff. He was the humor editor. He was on student council. He was in High Y and was vice president. He was in the Glee Club, the chorus, and he was also a member of what was a relatively new club at that high school at that time called the Key Club, which was a club sponsored by the Kiwanis. And that, to get in the Key Club was really an accomplishment. That was the club that you wanted to be in at Williamsport High School in 1959. Also a member of that class of 1959 was Scott A. Williams. Don, in the practice of law, I didn't cross paths with Don very much. He generally didn't do adversarial work, and I generally didn't do anything but adversarial work. So we didn't cross paths in the practice of law, but I would frequently see him. And whenever I did, we would stop and have a conversation. It was always very pleasant. We were both members of the Grace Run Club. In fact, Don was the first member of our generation to become a member of the Grace Run Club. He became a member in 1969. He became an officer soon thereafter and was an officer throughout most of the 70s. In 2007, he was voted to become a life member. So he remained a member of the Grace Run Club for the rest of his life. The last time I saw Don was at Grace Run. In June of 2018, Grace Run celebrated its 100th anniversary. And Ann and Don came back to Williamsport and spent the weekend. And Don sat in the locker room with Ann for hours as old friends and new friends spoke with him. And it was quite a nice event. He was happy, he was alert, he was smiling, he knew people, he had nice conversations with people. There were a lot of pictures taken that day, but the one that sits on top of the lockers at Grace Run is a picture of Don and Jack Person, who at that time was 2 months shy of his 100th birthday. The two of them talking with each other with great smiling faces. You know, once in a while, I actually several times in my career, I've crossed paths with somebody that graduated from Lycoming College. And they hear that I'm from Williamsport and I'm a lawyer, and they say, "You must know one of the Don Larrabees." And they always speak very highly of the business law classes that were taught by the Don Larrabees. I attended Don Larrabee's memorial at Wildwood last summer. It was at the height of COVID, was outside. It was very well attended. But the thing that impressed me the most were the things that were said about Don by his stepsons. They truly communicated how they felt about him, had great respect for him, great admiration for him. And I think that was a great testament to his life. Don was a gentleman. He was also just an all-around good person. And we need more people like Don. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Engelmann.
If it please the court, members of the bar, Ann and family. My first experience in meeting Don was as a Lycoming College student. I had spent 2 years at West Point, and I left there because I wanted to pursue a law career. And my first experience with the law was through Don's business law course. And I will tell you that I struggled with it, wondered if I had made a mistake. And I did okay. I got through it. And Don was very supportive of me as a student. I talked to him many times. And I will tell you that when I went out to Pepperdine and took contracts, I used those notes that I had from that course. And I was able to get, I scored the third highest in the class in contracts because of what he taught me. And I will tell you, and I told him later when we became partners that was him, not me, because I didn't get that highest score in all the other classes. And when I told him that story, he gave me his big smile. And Don had a smile that could light up a room. He was such a pleasant man, and Ed has used a lot of terms to describe Don. One term I would like to use is integrity. Don had enormous integrity, and he had a significant knowledge of the law, perhaps equivalent to someone like Judge Muir, who knew it all. And I would use him frequently. I would go to him and say, Don, here's the situation, here's what we have, and he would have the answer. And he was very supportive of me. He graduated from high school in 1959. I was 3 years old. So there was an age difference between Don and I, but it didn't matter to him. He was so supportive of me and taught me so much in those few years that I had. Like Judge Brown, I regret that I lost contact with Don. I enjoyed his company whenever I was around him. I'm happy to hear that in his later years, after I lost contact, he apparently had a very happy family setting. And Deb, I understand that you're also doing quite well and very happy. And I'm very, very glad to hear that. I just want to say that Don was one of the more influential people in my law career and in my life. And I will always have a place in my heart for Don. Very good man. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Engelmann. Mr. Marshall.
Yes, may it please the court, fellow members of the bar, the Larrabee family. On behalf of myself and the firm, our sincere condolences on the loss of Don. I didn't know Don for long, but he certainly made an impression, and I concur with all of the descriptions that have come before. As Don prepared to retire from the practice of law in 2011, his primary professional concern was taking care of his clients and assuring that there was a smooth transition as he moved into retirement. So he approached McNerney Page. My partner, Peter Facey, succeeded Don as the lecturer at law at Lycoming College. And Don, through talking to Peter and also talking to my former partner, Judge Tira, very quickly worked out an arrangement for Don to come on as of counsel at McNerney Page. And Don, he was offered an office. He didn't want an office. He said a conference room would do. And he set up shop in the back conference room at our office. And that's when many of us really got to know Don and work with Don and meet Don. And I'm not sure how he got anything done, because it was a constant parade of people stopping by when they heard he was in to say hello. He was always pleasant, always kind, always in a good mood, always smiling, always quick to share a laugh, a smile, a story. Everything you've heard prior to me speaking was our experience with Don. He spoke fondly of his family. He was looking forward to winding up his law practice and the move to Bethlehem and to be closer to his family. And he chatted with many of us about his plans, and he told stories among the partners here and the lawyers who would stop by about his practice. He was also a mentor, as folks would stop by and have questions, particularly regarding estate planning. The impression that he left on us and on myself is the same that you've heard from everyone. He was kind, he was considerate, he was always a gentleman, he was always professional, he had tremendous integrity, and it was our distinct pleasure to have that time with Don. And we're all better for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. The last member of the committee is Scott A. Williams, and I know there was a chance he might not be here, and there are a number of people who don't have their name on their phone, so I'm not sure if he's with us. Michelle, do you know if he's here?
I don't know, Judge. Is there a way for people on the telephone to unmute if they dialed in? Because he may have dialed in.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now,
Yes,
Judge?
I can.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Donnie, as I used to call him, and I graduated together in the class of '59 at Williamsport High School. At that time, there were about over 700 students in that class, and we were friends. He was always congenial at that time, and we liked to have a good time together. We traveled together in what we called the Woofers bus to such places as Reading, Lancaster, and Harrisburg for home games of the Williamsport High School Millionaires football team. He was elected to student council and the Honor Society and was very well liked in high school. And when I went to Dickinson College, he went to Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster. I lost track of him in law school, but we reunited as we studied for the bar, and were sworn in together as members of that Lycoming County Bar in November of 1966. He practiced law for all those years and was very competent in what he was doing. And I just lost my statement here, but anyway, in any event, he was a gentleman, and he was well respected and competent in his law practice and also as a professor. He also was an honest and man, a believer, and I wanted to extend my deepest sympathy to the family and offer our prayers for them at this difficult time. I could share a lot of other things, but in light of the hour, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. The court approves the report and resolution of the committee and enters the following order. And now this 26th day of April, 2021, in consideration of the resolutions presented by the committee appointed to draft resolutions in the death of Don M. Larrabee II, Esquire, the said resolutions are adopted, and it is ordered and directed that the resolutions herewith submitted and attached be adopted as an official expression of the Lycoming County Law Association and this court, and that the same be spread upon the records of the court, and the copies of this resolution be delivered to the family of Don M. Larrabee II, Esquire. And it is further ordered and directed that said resolution be entered at large upon the record of the court, and that it be printed in the Lycoming Reporter. I'd now like to ask my colleagues to say a few words about Mr. Larrabee. And Judge LaVecchia wasn't able to be here today, but I believe he gave his statement to Michelle Fry, the Executive Director of the Law Association.
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, Judge Mark Lavecchio sent his regrets. And when he realized that he wasn't going to be in attendance, he did send me his remarks last week, and I'll read them to you now. I had the pleasure of meeting Don soon after I moved to Williamsport in the mid-1980s. If I remember correctly, he worked with Dick Rosegen and Judge Brown. He was one of the go-to lawyers whenever I had a real estate question. He always knew the answers, but was somewhat intimidating. Not because of his demeanor or his attitude, but because of his knowledge base. I always left our conversations wondering if I could master an area of the law like he had done. Plus, he carried himself with the type of class that I always aspired to, but to date have never reached. And the judge concludes by saying that Don was a true scholar and a gentleman. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge McCoy.
Thank you, Judge Butts. First, I want to applaud the committee for the very detailed and extensive resolution that they provided today, along with all of their comments. I did not know Don Larrabee. In fact, I'm not even sure if I've ever had a conversation with him. But clearly, based upon everything that everyone has had to say about him, that was my loss. Each time I participate in one of these ceremonies, it reminds me how important it is to honor the members of our bar, and also gives me pause to think and to encourage, especially younger members of the bar, how important it is to get to know, especially the older individuals in our bar association. We clearly have a lot of very big shoes to fill, as we unfortunately are having many of these ceremonies this year. And it's clear each time we have one, what a great loss it has been to our bar to have lost these individuals.
Thank you. Judge Linhart.
Thank you, Judge Butts. I did not have the pleasure of knowing Don Larrabee, but I have really enjoyed having had the opportunity to listen to those who did know him. Clearly a man who was widely liked, widely respected, and clearly loved. What a wonderful legacy that he's left behind. And I join in share in Judge McCoy's remarks that clearly it was my loss, and I regret not having the opportunity to have gotten to know him. And I just wanted to extend my sincerest condolences to his family.
Thank you. Judge Tira.
Thank you, Judge Butts. I did get a chance to meet Don, but it wasn't until that he was ending his career, as Attorney Marshall mentioned earlier, as he decided he was ready to transition out of practicing. And Attorney Marshall went right on in saying that it was nothing he was concerned more with than what was going to happen to his clients. We repeatedly had conversations about, how did he want his relationship with the firm to be? What are the terms? And he really could care less about himself in that relationship. He really was wanting to make sure that his clients had a home when he, finally hung up his shingle and went on to spend time with his family. Through that process, so he never stopped the opportunity to share his wisdom of his practice or his personal life. And what I found out in that short period of time was that we actually had a lot in common that I had no idea that. Not only had we gone to the same undergrad, we were members of the same fraternity, and we were both presidents of that fraternity. And I'm not positive, I'd have to check with his wife, but I think we might have lived in the same exact house in college. It was funny to learn these things. And then as we kept talking, and we realized we're both married to teachers and had very similar experiences. I think it just spoke to the type of person he was. He was so engaging in such a classy, sincere way. For someone who I didn't know for so long, but in a short period of time, I felt like he engaged me and embraced me as someone as if I knew him for a long time. So I had utmost respect for him as not only as an attorney, but as the person he was. Thank you.
Thank you. Just briefly, I had, again, the opportunity to meet Don Larrabee when I was clerking for Judge Smith. Because Judge Smith was involved in real estate, he would often come by and talk with Judge Smith. And Of course, for those conversations, I wasn't a part of those, but he was always deferential to Wanda, Judge Smith's secretary, and of course, his law clerk, and very kind, friendly, polite. And once I left the law clerk position and I went into practice with Charlie Shebus, I did mostly real estate title searches, bring downs, and I would see him in the Register and Recorder's office, and he was just a welcome sight. Everyone just remarked how helpful he was, how friendly and so polite. And if you didn't know better, you wouldn't know he was an attorney because he was just so easy to talk with. And to echo what Judge McCoy has said, after our last memorial service, I got to thinking how much history of our law association we learn at these ceremonies. And as sad a circumstance as they are, it just gives us the opportunity to remember what wonderful members we have and what a significant contribution that they have made over the years, and how, as wonderful it is to remember them, what a serious loss we will have as a result. So thank you all, members of the committee, for your work and your sharing your personal memories of Don. And now I wanted to offer to, and be happy to hear any comments that any members of the bar would like to make on behalf of Don Larrabee. And if you could please, once again, unmute yourself so that we can recognize you. Mr. Carlucci?
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, I will be uncharacteristically brief in these remarks. I took both courses that Don offered at Lycoming College. I will describe him with a sentence that I very rarely use in describing lawyers. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of the law. And I paid attention when he talked. I'm proud to say I got A's in both his courses. I found myself at Temple Law School in North Philadelphia, surrounded by Ivy League graduates. Surrounded may be an exaggeration, but it certainly felt like that. And I, perhaps to some extent unlike them, were very well prepared for law school because I listened to every word Don said. And I can tell you that he was one of the very few lawyers I ever met who had a thorough understanding of areas of the law that he never practiced.
Thank you, Mr. Carlucci. Anyone else?
Your Honor,
Go ahead.
may it please the court. I too was a student of Don Larrabee at Lycoming College. And for those of us that were planning for law school and a legal career, and in our paper chase movie influenced hubris or maybe masochism, it was felt that if you were tough enough to get through Don Larrabee's classes at Lycoming College, then maybe, just maybe, you're tough enough to get through law school. And it was very similar to many law school classes. He lectured, usually by walking back and forth. And he called us by Mr., or I think he called the women Miss at that time. I don't remember a lot of intense questioning like law schools did. There was one test at the end of each course. There were, as Bill said, two semesters of it. Legal Principles 1, which was the business part, and Contracts Legal Principles 2, which was history and wills and estates and real estate. There was one test at the end that looked at issue identification and issue analysis. He was, as Ed said, a very good dresser, and he was always dressed in a suit. He was quite a stylish dresser. It was often more than the gray or navy suits that most lawyers wore, but not so excessive that he would have lost respect among other members of the bar, our profession being a rather conservative dressing organization. He took roll call every morning, and you took the class either at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. And he every morning he'd take roll call. He would pronounce your name, and he had a way of not just saying it, but sort of announcing it, like David Raker. He'd often put an emphasis at the end of his sentences. it turned out after a while, I figured out he was doing roll call alphabetically by last name. Although I was convinced he was mistaken, had my name mixed up the order with another student, because I could never understand why Joanna Strasky was named before me. R comes before S, right? Well, it turns out that, of course, Don would go through at a fairly fast clip, but not excessively, but fairly fast. Turns out her name was Joanne Ostrowski with an O, so Don was right. I was inspired by Don to apply to his law school alma mater with his help and support for him, and I was accepted, although I didn't end up going there. There were quite a few of us there that I'm sure others among our bar that took his course. One of them could very well have been the late Christine Waltz, who was a little younger than us. She probably would have been here to speak on his behalf. This course was only open to juniors and seniors at the time. In my practice, I would run into Don occasionally in real estate closings or matters involving estates, and he was always, as stated so often here, pleasant, professional, concise, clear in what he said. Just the kind of an attorney that everybody should be. Certainly a credit to our bar and to our profession. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Musto.
Yes, Your Honor. I did not have contact with Don in court because we did different things. I had contact with him, though, near my office because he practiced near me for some years, and he always greeted me with the qualities that I've heard attested to today. Kindness, he was genteel, he was warm, respectful. I didn't know him well, but I knew that I liked him, which was unusual. I had one near contact with him in court that I'd like to speak of. I was going in for argument, and Don was leaving one of the judge's chambers after an argument, which was unusual for him to be in court on something. And I forget who the other attorney was, but we went in, and I want to say that it was Judge Brown, but I can't be certain. No, I'm sorry, not Judge Brown. I apologize. Judge Smith, but I can't be certain. But we sat down, and the judge was just sitting there, and he was mulling over what had just happened. And he said to the other attorney and to me, you know, so-and-so was in here, and he was expressing frustration with Don Larrabee. And he said, I told him, I said, if you have a problem with Don Larrabee, you're the problem. And I think that's true. And I thought that was a wonderful testament to him. So he's missed. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any members of the family who would like to say a few words?
Hi, this is Brian Carselli. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, first, I'd like to thank everyone for their time today and their kind words. Don meant the world to my family, my brother, my mom, my stepsister, and her kids and her husband. And to hear his legacy and what he accomplished as a lawyer, and hear how he touched so many people as a professor, which I never knew. I knew he taught law, but I didn't realize how profound of an impact he had on the people that he taught. So thank you very much for your thoughts and your kind words. And it meant a lot to me and my family.
Thank you. And Mrs. Larrabee, did you wish to speak?
I also want to just say a big thank you to everybody who participated today. It really meant a lot to me. And my son's going, Mom, you're a mushball again. But I'm very touched by what you all had to say. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you for saying a few words here today. Anyone else? I don't see anyone. Okay. Well, seeing as there's no one else, ladies and gentlemen, this would now conclude the memorial service for Don M. Larrabee II, Esquire. I would like to thank the family, members of the Law Association, and friends for attending today. And then this special session of court is adjourned.
Thank you, Judge Butts.
Thank you.